Hello again, everyone. I hope you've been keeping yourself as well as possible since the last time I've spoken to you. Today I want to speak to you about self-care, and the email below will give you lots of specific ideas about what you can do, but I wanted to speak to you directly about why to do it, why it's important, and also some of the things to keep in mind about how to go about it. Now, self-care is something that has become a little bit popular in the general media lately. In a lot of ways that can be really lovely, but it also means that the message can get a little bit muddied, and the idea can come to people that self-care is just about pampering yourself a bit. And when we start getting that message that it's just about pampering, the message can get a little bit lost on just how important it is. I would go so far as to say that self-care is just about the most important thing you can focus on for yourself. And I'm not saying that just because Americans like to make quite grandiose statements. I think of it quite a bit like car maintenance. When my car is running well and I have lots and lots and lots to do, it can feel like a ridiculous annoyance to have that little tiny pop-up message saying it's time to get my car in for a service. And I might very well be tempted to ignore that little pop-up message. And if we're being completely honest, I probably can ignore it for quite some time. My car will continue to run, and I will continue to tell myself I have far, far, far more important things to do than to take my car into the garage. But what I won't be seeing is the damage that's happening below. And it may very well be that my car gets a bit gunged up underneath the hood, and I come to regret that decision of not taking care of my car. The same is true for us. We can go an awful long time without taking care of ourselves, and in fact we can sometimes even look more efficient, because that time that we would have given over to taking care of ourselves, we've put to working more, doing more. But eventually, we have to pay for that decision. So what I would like to suggest to you is that we slow down, we think about what we need, and we start putting into practice before we hit a crisis point. Now, leaving aside cars and car maintenance for a bit, I just want to speak to you briefly in this video about two different ideas, and then I will release you to read the rest of the email. The first thing I want to talk about is short and long-term self-care, and the second thing is about balance. Now, short and long-term self-care, what I mean by that is that we need to find a way to balance the things that are soothing or comforting to us in the short term, which is very much a form of self-care, and the things that keep us strong and healthy and resilient in the longer term, which is definitely self-care. So if we imagine that I have an incredibly long, challenging day at work, and I come home and I am just done, it may very well be that in that moment, the perfect act of self-care I can give myself is to just sit down and eat a cake for dinner. And that is self-care in that moment, because it is an indulgence. It is a way of saying, I have had a hard day and I deserve this. But if every day then, for that week, the next week, the week after, I am having difficult days at work and I come home and I eat cake, that stops being self-care. Because at that point I'm starting to do more damage to myself than I'm getting from the comfort of eating the cake. So we need balance in the short and in the long term. And we also need balance in the areas with which we're focusing on the self-care. For those of you who take care of yourself physically, the joggers out amongst you, those of you who are drinking your kale smoothies, making sure that you're eating healthy and running and all of that, that is wonderful. But I would caution you to make sure that you are also practicing good self-care in the areas of your emotional health, your spiritual health, the practical aspects of your life. And there might be some of you, like me, who is very, very good at the emotional side of things and the practical side of things, but might leave aside the physical focus. In true self-care, we are finding a good balance of each of these different categories. So please do read the email below to have a think about the different categories, and then read the attachment for some ideas of some activities that you can do to practice self-care. Now, that is all I wanted to say to you today in this video, except one more thing, which is just to say I will be speaking to you again, and there are two topics that are on the table for us to focus on. One is the ins and outs of how to do meditation and also how to troubleshoot any challenges that you've had in meditation. And the second one is how to work from home without going completely crazy. If you have a preference for which of those comes up first, please drop us a message or an email or leave a comment on this video. If you don't get back to us, then you will just be at the mercy of my whims and I will do whatever I want. So, take very good care of yourself until I speak to you again, and I hope that you find this video and this email to be helpful. Take care.